So when you go to classroom-iq.com/login, you'll see the screen to log in. You're going to use your school email address and the password that you were sent. It'll ask you to change your password once you're there. But let's go over what it's going to look like when you get into Classroom IQ. In Classroom IQ, it'll start you up on the last item or assignment that you're working on. In this screen, you can make new assignments or click at the top and select another one to look at. I'm going to select Unit 3A, Test Version 2. Now, I already have scanned in my key to make it easier to set up the grading. You do not have to do that. You can just import your students' papers directly. Now, that comes to the part of importing your students' papers. You'll need to scan in the papers, which you can do on the copier down in the connector hall. Once they're scanned in, you'll see I have Unit 3A Test Version 2, and it's each student's test, each side of it. Now, the students' tests need to all be set up where the questions and answers are in the same area of the test, and they all need to be facing the same direction. So this is the file I'm going to want to import since it is version 2 of Test 3A. So when I go back to my screen here, I'm on Unit 3A Test Version 2, and I want to import the student's document. So I hit Import. It says select the rosters you want to match. This is for my Algebra 2 classes, so I'm going to select both of them and click Next. You want to confirm that it's in a PDF and that every hand-in has an equal number of pages and the question and answer areas are a fixed size. Click OK, and you can either search for the file or you can drag and drop it. And once you've chosen the file or dragged and dropped it, you can click Upload, and it's going to upload those files. You'll notice in status it says processing. So while it's processing, I'll go over a couple of other things. When you create an assignment, it automatically connects it to a share code. So if more than one teacher is giving the same assignment, you only have to set up the assignment once, and then everybody can have the same grading scale for that assignment. Now it tells me that it's ready to grade. If I press down here on grade, it'll go to my grading page. And usually it takes a second for this to load, especially the first time through. Now, you'll notice on the other side we have where you could have gone to grading from that tab. You can do an item analysis once it's graded. There's your grade book a little bit further down. There it is. And you even have your rosters so you can add students later. Now, as it's processing on that first import, it'll just show you the student's handwritten name. After a few minutes, it'll automatically connect that with the rosters that we've imported so that it's connected to their student ID and their email address. The first time you import, I imported the key so that I could go ahead and set up my grading. So I clicked Set Up Grading, and I can either set it by points. This is a 3-point problem. You can even select higher values for problems. If it's a multiple choice problem, you can set up how many options they had, and you can give point values for different answers. So you could have a certain point value for them picking the correct one, and then if there's one that's that all they missed was something very simple, kind of what the mistake was if they chose that problem, you could choose that to be a lesser value. So it wouldn't be just a 0 if they chose that answer. You can choose a multi-part, which is different than multiple choice. That's if you had problem number 1 with subsections A, B, C, and D, and you can have a different value for each of the subsections. There's also rubrics. You can tag a certain problem to meet a standard. They are working on uploading the TEKS. Right now they just have Common Core in there, so we'll add that in later. But right now this problem number 1 is a 3-point problem. Problem 4 is a 3-point problem. Problem 8 was a 2-point problem, and so forth. So I set up each problem with its point value. Now once I have all that in, I can click here to start with problem number 1. And for example, this problem asks to decide if the function was a polynomial. If it is not, explain why it's not. If it is, write it in standard form, state the degree and leading coefficient. Well, this student recognized that it was not a polynomial, but for the wrong reason. Here's what I like about Classroom IQ. I can select the part that I want to give feedback on and say coefficients can be fractions. It's the exponents that must be whole numbers. So the student recognized it wasn't a polynomial, but for the wrong reason. Now, I clicked save. It saved that feedback for that student, but it also saved it on the right-hand side, so I can use it again for another student. Now I'm going to give this student a 2 out of 3. Oh, here's my key. After a little while, it will actually put the key into answer key up here, but while it's trying to recognize handwritings, it's still showing up in there. So this student said not a polynomial, and it did circle that the exponent was a -4, so they get all 3 points. So notice when I click on the point, it goes directly to the next student. No, it has a negative exponent, 3. Negative exponent, negative exponent. So these students were all getting it correct. This student made the same mistake that the first student made. So I'm going to select the word fraction. Now I could retype it if I wanted, but I'm just going to click on the feedback that I've already given and click save. This student I might have to give more feedback on. So I'm going to come back to them later. So I can just go next and go to the next student if I wanted to, and then come back later for the ones who missed it. That's another option as well. So as I'm grading, if I look back at the student thing, I can automatically see which students got the 3 out of 3 or 2 out of 3. If I have a student that got a 1 or a 0, it's going to show up in a different color. So I want to show you that. I'm going to go back to my grade book and show you an assignment that's already been graded. So if I go back to my grade book, I can look at all of my students, or if I click on the My Students, I can click One Class. So I'm going to choose my first period class. It has the other assignments that I've already put in. Now, I have not finished grading that Unit 3A test, so I'm not going to look at that. But I can look at their 14-3 quiz and immediately see the ones in green are good. The ones in orange were not so good. They got a 3 out of 5. The student that got a 2, I might need to look at further. Now, if I had a lot of those, like say I had a lot that had 3.5s in this realm, so I want to look at that assignment a little bit closer. I can go into Item Analysis and select that assignment, or any of the assignments. Let's select this one. On the Item Analysis, it breaks it down by problem. So I can see overall my students didn't do so well on problem number 4. I can see that this student got a 0. And if I hover over it, I can see their work and see that they just skipped it. This one suddenly has A's and B's. I have no idea what they did. This one skipped it, so they got a 0. I can easily see what each person got for each problem. So that's kind of a quick intro. I'll